What's up, everybody? How's it going today? This is another video brought to you by your friend Carpo, sitting in my old backyard. As I'm doing some remodeling, I come out and do videos from time to time, and today my inspiration was a comment that a subscriber left. As the title would suggest, I'm sure. I never know what a title will be until later, but I suppose I will make it something referring to INFJ. And at least that will give people an idea of where I'm coming from. This is a 4-letter code, which is from the Myers-Briggs test, as it's called. The Myers-Briggs was a psychological test to evaluate what type of personality you have. And I'm sure you've all heard of personality types and whatnot. Now, let me say first off that I'm very suspect and reluctant on these things. In the past couple decades ago, but I've taken these various tests and quizzes, trying to figure out like what kind of a person I am, what are my strengths and weaknesses. And you come to the realization that yes, there are some definite traits that carry through into these personality types, but not all of them, of course. And we also, my suspicion is that, as humans change over time, of course, our personality types change, right? Well, not really when it comes to basically our root personalities, but I guess I'll get into that here. The same way that I think about astrology, I know there's something to it, but I'm very suspect about human interpretations in the current world of what it means, if that makes sense, right? So I know there's something there, but I don't trust people to decode it. It's the same way as letting, some random dude, tell you what the Bible means, right? Or any scripture. Like, I believe every human, all of us, any human born on this earth is capable of interpreting and decoding things on their own terms and coming in a connection with their life and the universe that works for them. I do believe that there are, however, many different personality types that seem to, whether it's influenced genetically, like we're predisposed to it when we're born, or if it's just something that's learned. I mean, there's a lot to this, epigenetics. If our parents grow up in certain, say, a fear-based atmosphere, does that pass on to the kids? We could get into many different technicalities, and this is why I'm suspicious of personality types. So with that whole preamble over, the subscriber left a comment the other day, and I thought I would use that as kind of a platform for this, because ultimately I do this for the subscribers. I do this for their comments, rather, not the subscribers. If I was doing this for money, then I would have tried to monetize a long time ago. Once in a while I put a commercial on here, but I've never had a sponsorship. I don't do this for money. I do this because I honestly care and I want to share these things. It's important to me, and I feel like a giving person, but then I feel like a fraud a lot of the time. Like, why are you even talking? Who cares what you have to say? And this is, of course, the dark side of, how we think about each other and ourselves in this way that we figure everybody else must have insecurities too, right? And then you see these people who play the ego, who seem like they have it all figured out. Especially when you're young, you see these older folks who just like, you can emulate them and think, wow, they must have the greatest life. And then you find out they're miserable and you're like, why? Well, to the point here, an INFJ is, I don't even know. Introverted is the first one. And funny, if you asked me 20 years ago, I'd say I'm an extroverted person. And that's only because I like people. But I don't like crowds. I've never liked groups. I've never been into, hanging out with a lot of people. If I go to a party or something, I isolate with a few people in the corner, right? So I never really saw this in myself until later in life. But a couple of the aspects of this are feeling and judging. And I never would have also thought of myself as a judging person, because I wouldn't want to think of myself as a judging person. But I absolutely am. And it really is part of who I am. So anyhow, a subscriber left a comment about saying that they believe I was an INFJ. It was the first comment they'd ever left on the channel, right? So it was just a new subscriber says they thought I was an INFJ and possibly a Sagittarius. Now, as my subscribers know, I just had my birthday last week and turned 50. And yes, I'm a Sagittarius indeed. Strong Sagittarius. And at a young age, in my teen years, when I was like 14, I started getting into like, I've got a bunch of tattoos of like various alchemical symbols. One for the sun and the moon, and a spiritual cross with this chicken and egg becoming one. It's like maybe one day I'll share. They're really crude tattoos I did myself when I was like 14, but they're bad. And a skull with like a candle on it and everything. But I was really into like alternative, ideas. I'd go to the Crystal Cavern. It was a store locally where they sold incense, and I'd buy incense and crystals, and I'd go sit and I'd meditate. Then I got introduced to psychedelics. It was, a wild time in my life, and so I've always felt like I had this weird interest in like strange shit. Let's just say very eccentric in my own way. And for some reason, I've always felt guilty for that. Like, maybe what if I just fit in with everyone else? I know better inside, right? I'm aware that that's a dumb way to think. But it goes back to this idea of ignorance is bliss, right? The more you learn about shit, the less you wish you knew. And a lot of people say, oh, that's not true. Well, you don't know what the other people know, right? There is a such thing as an info hazard, right? Once you know it, you can't unknow it, okay? It's the way you can't unsee a horrible crash or see, horrific scene. And we as humans, we're sensitive. But I'm more sensitive than I'd like to let on. One of the things about an INFJ is that they claim that they are, very sensitive to criticism. But it's not because they have, an ego complex. It's the opposite. We don't have an ego complex. It's the opposite. We just don't put up with bullshit. And I guess that was one of the things that really came through, because I found, okay, so funny enough, somebody mentioned that about INFJ, and I was like, all right, I haven't looked into the Myers-Briggs in a while. I'm going to look up an INFJ. So I looked it up, and, the search results showed a couple videos. The first video was a guy that I just subscribed to about, I want to say like just a few weeks ago, and just found his channel. He just had some interesting things to say, but I didn't really know what his channel was totally about. Well, when I looked at the channel name, it was called INFJ Circle. He only has like 90,000 subscribers or something, so I was like, it's not a huge channel, but one I just happened to find because of my interests in who I am and the type of person I am. And I was like, I started listening to some of his videos, and I was like, holy crap, this is me in a nutshell. I like people, but I need my own space. I need to spend time to unwind and kind of isolate by myself, and I shouldn't have to feel guilty for that, right? But we always do. And I give to others in the ways that I choose to give to others. And, they say INFJs, will be damned if they'll be told what's right and wrong, because we know and we have our own values. And so all these things resonated just so much. And I thought, there's like, usually there's at least one or two aspects I'll disagree with, right? And I could not find one. I think he mentioned one thing that I was like, oh, that's not me. And then I thought, you're just not being honest with yourself, But it explained so much that I sent this video to like my friends, because I was like, if you would take the 10 minutes to watch this video, it would really explain a lot about who I am. I mean, because even regardless of what we feel about these personality types, I had this aversion to identifying through personality types, and then I had this epiphany earlier, and it was one that I probably should have thought about sooner. But I know what's most important to people besides the basic needs. It's community and connection. And if we can't find people that think the way we think, then we have a hard time finding community. There are some people out there who are bubbly and active, and they want to go out and do things But a person like me, I just kind of want to just do my own thing. Especially the older I get, the more I just want to kind of hang out in the backwoods at my house and do absolutely fucking nothing. Or maybe build a little shelter, or I'm getting ready to build a sweat lodge up there. It's going to be fun. But just doing things to do them, and not trying to always busy your mind, because your mind is already racing all the time. And this is the other thing about that personality type, is a constant going over things in your brain, processing everything that happened during the day or that might happen. For everybody's different, I'm sure. Like that channel I mentioned, he kind of tends to kind of generalize people as, this will be your experience, or these are the makes you an introvert, when I don't have some of these things, because I actually handle them differently. And what I mean by that is, like, I don't know, we all need time to recharge, and we need time to isolate. There are some very strong similarities, but also each person is still unique. I'm just saying there's no one size fits all psychological profile, but oh damn do I fit pretty much all of it. And it was funny because I did leave a comment mentioning the same thing happened to me when I was younger, when I didn't really think much of astrology, and then I looked into Sagittarius. Well, it's not just the fact that, and I'm not talking about like Saturday horoscopes, I'm talking about the real roots behind Sagittarius. I think my planet's Jupiter, and I did my stars and my charts, and I have all these interesting correlations that really relate to me. And I'm not the only one, obviously. We don't know how it works, though, and this is the key. The humans don't understand. Now, can we get maybe messages from above? I don't know. Some people maybe, but there's a lot of charlatans and bullshitters out there. And the kind of person I am, I do not put up with charlatans and bullshitters. In fact, truth is very important to me. I'm always seeking out what's right and what's real. I don't care if people lie to themselves, but when people lie to others or they cheat others, I always feel like I have to speak up for the smaller guy. And it was funny because that was one of the characteristics he mentioned, is fairness, equality. It's one of the core values that I've carried around my whole life. I'm not a perfect person. I don't know, I'm not out there working at a soup kitchen and helping everyone else. I have a YouTube channel, and I try to share my thoughts with people, and I hope it helps some people. But as much as any other human, I'm selfish to the degree that I have to figure out how to live my life, but also to take moments out to try to just do the right thing and be kind to other people. I find that I tend to give things away when I meet people in person. I think the internet's made everyone a little rough around the edges, but in person, a lot of us are, just want what's best for everybody. We just want what's best for everybody. So regardless of whether you believe in personality types, regardless of whether you believe in astrology or any of it, at least most folks can acknowledge that there tend to be categories of personalities. And I think the Myers-Briggs test does a pretty good job of wrapping up who I am. So, to understand where I'm coming from, I sent that video to my friends. Like, INFJ really describes basically many of the issues that I face in my life that I can't explain to other people in words. And that's because often, a guy like me, we might just ignore a phone call or a text and not want to deal with people sometimes, or other times we're really excited to talk with folks, and it's like, it's okay because you're just being yourself. So I guess I just wanted to put that out there. And if you're one of those folks, if you find yourself being, you like people, you want to help people, you want to be kind to folks, you want fairness, equality, but you also need your time alone to recharge, and people don't really understand where you're coming from or who you are. I get it. And this is what I was going to say earlier. The one missing factor is community. So when people find community and other people who have similar personalities, that can really benefit, the person. So I thank you all for being part of my community. I'm sure that you are all, unique in your own way, but I know a lot of you are probably like me, the thinkers that just can't stop your mind, that feel like you've you've learned to manage the world, like various terms for it. I guess I shouldn't get into terms, but you know, to figure out our purpose here on earth, what we're here for. That is a huge mover for me, and I know a lot of you too. You feel it in your bones. You feel like your whole life, like there's been something coming that you're supposed to be part of. Maybe that's ego speaking. I don't know. But it's never, to me, been about selfishness. It's as much as I want to see the planet recover from all the bullshit it's been through, and I'd like to be part of that. So, yeah, that gets into a whole other apocalypse story. But I got to get going. Appreciate your time. And as usual, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, nature. It's all around us. Even in my old place here, there's nature. And I got my canoe right over here that I really need to load up and take home so I can put it in the river and just sit on my ass and chill. I've got a lake like a couple miles away. I can just drive down there and just plop it in. Gotta do that soon. Navigate well, my friends. Much love.